Hi everyone, week 6 of our public personnel management course. My name is Christy Giannoni, and this week we're taking a look at political neutrality. So this is something that you really see at every level of government agencies, while the Hatch Act that we'll be focusing on is something that affects federal government employees. At a local agency like mine, for a small city, we have something, along the lines of a gifts and gratuity policy, right? That kind of outlines what we can take in from certain vendors or political parties. And that's something that really ties into human resources management, because typically we're the watchdogs that kind of look over these things and make sure that everybody's behaving themselves, following policies. And so it's kind of an interesting stance to take a look at this concept, and particularly the Hatch Act. So this was something that was sponsored by New Mexico Senator Carl Hatch and signed by FDR in 1939. And basically, as all things that start, there was an accusation that the Democratic Party was basically utilizing employees from the Works Progress Administration, which is a new name now, to sway the congressional campaign and basically political contributions in return for employment. And so what the Hatch Act does is it provides certain provisions on engaging in political activity. So what federal employees can't do is engage in political activity while on duty or acting in their official capacity, while in a federal building or government leased workspace, or while using their official authority to influence an election. So some of these things, as you can see, number 2, an example would be like utilization of a government social media account, wearing a campaign button at work or a hat, posting, campaign paraphernalia in your workplace. And it also has a strict ban. This is really heavily emphasized against federal employees engaging in political campaign fundraising. So this is something that we see most often in the news, and this was something with the most recent campaigns that we saw a little bit of conversations in early 2018. There were some accusations of this. So this includes for all federal workers, people who are off duty, and federal workers can be a huge wide range of individuals. You think of our postal workers, and so this is everybody except for the president and the vice president. They are exempt, and a few other certain high-level officials are exempt from this as well. But this is kind of the main concept. They want to make sure that they're, keeping that neutrality, that they're not engaging in any political, speaking at campaigns, using their authority in that capacity to be representing a political party. All right, so let's take a look at my thoughts and relevance on this. We see this in a lot of our early readings in those theorists, the dichotomy, Woodrow Wilson talking about, mixing government, business, and politics. A big one was David Rosenblum on the public administration theory and the separation of powers. He was really big on political neutrality and the importance of that. Paul Appleby, who was a theorist who talks about government exists to protect the public interest, and how can we really representing the public at large if we're, representing or advocating for a certain political party. And Frank Goodnow was another one too, talked about 2 distinct functions of government. So the administrative job, which is, federal employees or, smaller level public agency representatives like myself. It's our job to execute the political side, but we are tasked with being neutral in our opinions of politics while in working capacity. So between this dichotomy of what really the administration and politics side is, that neutrality that we're tasked with, and the purpose of public employees, really being for the people, I think this is a very relevant act. I think this is something that is still talked about. We've had some really interesting campaigns over the last few years and accusations. And so some of these acts that are maybe not as well known is something that we'll maybe see more talked about a little bit more. But I think anything that emphasizes public administrators remaining neutral is important at every level of the branches of government, from federal like this to smaller. It's a really interesting topic. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. I look forward to listening to everybody else's.